Good morning once again. Honorable Minister of Youth, the honorable invited guests of today's session from different governments, our Vice Chancellor, all participants, including our own students and students from outside Rwanda, I want to once again welcome you to this conference. We are going to start. A few minutes ago, I told you we are going to start. I was actually checking the mic, if it was working. And I want to tell you that we are going to start. And for the youth who don't have maybe an extra seat, we have reserved the next room. So for those who won't be having a seat in here, please tell your neighbor that the next room we have an extra seat for the youth and all other participants. Let me take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Bali from South Africa to take us in the next section. Thank you.
Hello and good morning. Can I survive without the mic? No. Good morning. By way of introduction, first of all, this event is for young people, and that's what excites me. And of course, you'll say, what excites him? Because he is a dinosaur himself. But the reality is, as we are trying to manage a transition into the future that we don't know, we would like to actually sort of make sure that we handhold our young people into the future. So the reason why we are here, and we happen to have even some adults in this conversation, is that in the process of actually beginning to understand our young people and how they think and where they come from each time they raise issues, we need to be in the same room with them and share with them. Yeah? So, for starters, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Perry Masocha. I come from South Africa. I run a small company called the Education Industry Exchange. And it is focusing on linking education and industry. And I would like to argue very strongly that whatever we do, we are trying to prepare the young people for the world of work. Prior to all this, I used to be the director of education for the British Council for about 19 years. And then from there, I became a party for USAID, and then did some work for Oprah Winfrey Foundation. And then after all that, I decided to be head of a mouse than being a tail of an elephant. And that is why I'm running as a very simple, small outfit. As we navigate through this conference today, you will pick up and realize that some of the things are not that conventional or traditional. You are used to them, are just because I'm just a visitor in this country, and are just because I normally prefer to do things a very different way. So, for starters, let me actually try this because I've tried it before. We do have a number of young people today. Can we, because we like greeting each other, and each time we greet each other, we use our hands. Yeah? So, can you get ready? Get ready. Please prepare your hand, your right hand that you are going to use to greet. And please greet the person on your left. So the reason why I was doing that, I don't want to run the risk of coming over here, spend the 3 days here, and talk to the friends that I normally speak to all the time. We are here from different parts of the continent, and what we need to do is to make sure that by the time we leave here, at least you have met 10 different people that you have never met before. Okay? So, and for starters, I know that we do have professors, we do have doctors, and we do have people like myself, Mr. Perima Soka, and then we have young people too. May I request that you stand up and you go and meet the person you've never met before. So in front of you there, you have a paper. Can you see that book, blue book, the leaflet? Yeah? Can you just take out a page and write your name on it? Just write your name and your surname. And your title, just what you do. Teacher, lecturer, principal, or whatever. Thank you very much. Can you now stand up from where you are seated and go and meet the person you are meeting for the first time and exchange, what's your business card? And exchange what you just wrote and introduce yourself. Tell him or her what you do, where you come from, why you are here. Hey, how are you?
Fine.
Thank you. I like that.
Thank you.
But because I'm still controlling those people, but this is brave. That is good. I call it networking. You see, the biggest cat in this room you can catch by doing exactly what you do. If someone was to ask me, do you want to employ this guy? I was going to say yes.
And that's what I meant.
Yeah, but can you, because other people are not. Yeah, hello? 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 Hello, I requested you to stand up and go somewhere to another person.
So when this exercise, that's when we starting speeches?
Yes. I just break the ice because education is boring. People go to conferences, so I want them to relax. Once they are relaxed, then we start. The minister is in here, isn't it? Yeah. Don't worry.
Okay.
No, it shouldn't. Hello. I requested you to go to someone you are meeting for the first time. Hello. I requested you to go to a person that you have never met before. Okay? Hello. I requested you to go to someone. Go to someone. Huh?
We have to finish it.
Yeah. Have you business card?
No, I
Okay. Please, this is not going to take. Hey, Fredugax. Where is the minister? Honorable Minister, how are you? My name is Parima Soka. I was just doing this deliberately because I wanted to see people who are going to come and meet the minister.
Oh, okay.
All the SG.
It's a learning. No
No. I'm just trying to demonstrate to you why I was doing this.
Thank you.
You understand what I mean?
We appreciate it.
Yes. Okay, have you done that? Hello, have you done that? Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, can you go back to your seats, please? Yeah, okay. How was the exercise? Yeah? Hello? Remember, we belong to this continent. And I was very privileged during this session. Oh, at least, where are you from? From Zambia. And you met the minister from here in Rwanda. Yes. Yeah? Because she is our minister in the continent. Yeah? 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 And other people as well, they come to the conferences and they spend the next few days just talking to themselves. And then they go back. So half the time it's like education, minister, it's like education is boring. When you say people should go to a conference, they're going there, it is punishment. They are saying, you know, I wonder these 3 days, how quick it's going to fly. But the reality is that we need to network. More than any other thing, the benefit of going to the conference is to meeting new people. Yeah? And I'm saying this because our president, Cyril Ramaphosa in South Africa, he came to Rwanda. And the first thing he said when he came back in South Africa, he said, we need to learn something from Rwanda. I know infrastructure is big, Rwanda is small, whatever and so on, but he came over here and said, we must learn from here. And again, what we know from where I come from, Minister, is that you guys are leaders in 4IR, the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So, that you are here. Depends in this space. And I think this is the right moment to actually sort of hold this event in this space. So I am going again by requesting out of this room, but I would like for people to know. Thank you very much. The reason why I'm doing this also is because I would like to demonstrate to you how seriously we take this event. Whatever we're going to be saying in here, when they are sitting in those big offices, is going to say, this is what is normally talked about. And I'm also told, when I was reading some work on this country, that the young people are very active, that young people are always consulted. And I think that is what we need to take. Yeah? And maybe whilst we're still here as well, may I introduce the SG of CAPA. Recognize your presence. But touched or met a person from the Gambia. We have one in the and it is not by default that I'm here again, standing in front of you. When I was a student in the UK, in my formative years, I shared a room with a guy from the Gambia, and today I have twins. Professor Laila, today I have twins, and those twins are Kunta and Kinte. And they're 23 years old. So I've not just discovered myself that I love Africans. 23 years ago, I made that powerful decision, and it will stay with me forever. And the reason why we are here and why I'm here, it is because we need, one of the keys, it is to make sure that we build bridges for our young people to access resources, opportunities throughout Africa. Our life is not going to end in Rwanda, in Zambia, in Ghana, in Nigeria, all those other places. We need to prepare a future where our young people are going to actually make a huge contribution to this continent. And that opportunity starts here. We started it in Nigeria with young people. And I think I'm very happy that CAPA took this seriously and created this platform once again. Professor Eshun, I think that's a big achievement for CAPA. And as we go along, we need to make sure that we are not doing young people a favor. They have a right to actually voice their ideas, their visions, yeah? And that is why this platform is created. Yeah? And before I get into our program, I would like to just say three things. Young people, throughout the next few hours, I would like you to think hard about what gaps exist for the future. What kind of jobs are going to be there in the future? Because your jobs are not here now. In the next 5, 10 years, things will be different. Institutions, and those are our key thinkers who are going to help us with the design. We have technocrats as well. And they need to be aware that whatever we're talking about today is going to influence the curriculum. And that curriculum must respond to the needs of the future. Number two, whatever we do, new change will never bring anything without leadership. So the mindset of leadership must change. We need the new ways of leading and the new ways of thinking. The first thing is that you need to think about leading self. And we call that inside-out leadership, where we think about authenticity, self-awareness, and all that stuff. And then from there, if you can lead yourself, then you can lead others. The new skills that are going to be needed in the future are very simple skills, like network and so on. And that is why the first thing that I started with here, I said, can you stand up and go to the next person and talk to that person? Otherwise, you have worked yourself outside the equation if you don't. That's good. Yeah? Okay. Yeah? So that is very important. This is why if you can lead others, then you can lead change. Because that is very critical. Because we are going to talk about change and the future going forward. I would like to make sure that throughout our conversations, we are not only going to be thinking outside the box, but we are going to kick the box away. And that is why I'm trying very hard to actually set the scene in a very different way altogether. And hope we are fully on board with that one. Esther. The Minister of Youth, yeah? Yeah, okay, who's that? I'm sorry that I'm a visitor here, so I got this one wrong. So young people know that as we go along the rest of the day, some things are going to get wrong, but that's how we learn. So I've learned something too here. So I'm going to invite the Vice Chancellor, yeah? Dr. James Kashumba, to come and do a welcome over here. Over to you.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? Who is not from Rwanda? Can I see a few hands? Ah, quite a good number. Good, good. So we shall be teaching all of those people who are not from Rwanda a few words in Kinyarwanda, like mwaramutse, mwaraye, murakaza neza. Okay? So my name is Dr. James Ngashumba. I'm the Vice Chancellor of Rwanda Polytechnic. Now, Barry, can you allow me to critique you? I was a school teacher for a long time. You told us everybody turned to the left and greet the person next to the left. I turned, and the minister had turned to greet the PS, the SG. SG had turned, so we were all kind of, if you had said, turn left and then turn right. Okay, next time. Okay, so you're welcome to Rwanda. In Rwanda we say, murakaza neza. Honorable Minister, thank you for honoring us by accepting to come to officiate at this meeting. Honorable SG, executive members, executive board members of CAPA, and all other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, but most of all, young people, welcome to Rwanda. I'm not giving a speech. Barry has done it all, what we expect. As he mentioned, in Rwanda, we really put our young people center stage. It would be extremely foolish to ignore young people, considering they make more. In Rwanda, I don't know whether it's more than other countries, but our young people who are under 30, they are like almost 60%, if I'm correct. Over 50% anyway, or under 30. And if you go to 40, under 40, they're like 60, 65%. So how can you afford to ignore part of your population? The same way, we don't ignore our women, our ladies, our women, our young girls. We put them center stage. But this is for youth, both boys and girls. So we are not going to ignore you. We will be wanting to listen from you. Okay? So thank you for coming. I'm excited about today. I'll hang around, just to interact. I love being around young people. I too, like Barry. Where is Barry? I'm another dinosaur. 2 dinosaurs in the room. Okay? But because we love young people, we hang around. And we have 1 or 2 wise words to pass on to the next generation. So without much ado, I want to introduce the Secretary General of CAPA. CAPA, everybody knows what CAPA stands for. Is there anybody who doesn't understand? Is it written where? Is there anyone who doesn't know what CAPA stands for? I'm sure there are some who don't. Commonwealth, Association of Technical Universities and Polytechnics in Africa. But that name, we really must change it, Commonwealth. No, we want to be African, yeah? And we have actually invited some people from what we'd call Francophone. There are some people who've come from non-Commonwealth countries, because in future we want, but that's a matter for someone else to address. So, Madam Secretary General, I'm going to invite you to come and say a few words. As for me, I don't like making speeches, but I like being just mixing with young people. Before I hand over to you, Barry mentioned something. We are meant to interact. You see, when I was going through school, I was shy. I was kind of a bookworm. Just leave me with my book. And then when I reached university, when I was about to finish, someone told me, said, you're leaving university, you don't even have a girlfriend. And then I said, it had never occurred to me. I said, so how do I talk to girls? He said, you just go and say, I'm James Gashumba, and introduce yourself. So that's what you're going to do. Go to someone you don't know and introduce yourself. You won't die. I didn't die. And then I got a girlfriend, and she became my wife. So we've been married for 42 years now. She's a good girl. So, Madam, Madam Secretary General, I hand over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Probably I should first start with the Master of Ceremony, who had disappeared, because he's been ably represented by the State Director for this ceremony, Mr. Bali Masoko. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you for taking the lead. I know this is your show. When it comes to youth and youth affairs, I know how passionate you are about it. So thank you very much for accepting to really stage today's forum. The Right Honorable Prime Minister, Republic of Rwanda, who is our distinguished guest of honor, Dr. Ngigeret, the chief host of this forum, Honorable Minister of Education of the Republic of Rwanda, Honorable Eugene Mutimura, the Honorable Minister of Youth, our distinguished Madam Rosemary Mabazi, the Chairman of the Commonwealth Association of Technical Universities and Polytechnics in Africa, Madam Professor Leila Abubakar, the executive board members of CAPA, our special guests present here, the distinguished delegates, and I say these distinguished delegates are the youth. This is your show. You are most highly welcome to this forum. Our distinguished partners that really contributed to make this forum happen. Notably, we have the Youth Division of the Africa Union Commission, led by Mr. Koko, the Start of Africa, Erastus, Standard Group, and of course, the EIE of Barry Musoga himself. Thank you very much for supporting CAPA, and especially at this particular important forum. All other protocols respectfully observed. Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister, it is a great honor and privilege on behalf of the Executive Board of the Commonwealth Association of Technical Universities and Polytechnics in Africa, CAPA, my own behalf as the Secretary General, members of the CAPA Secretariat, the local organizing committee that had done a tremendous job in putting things together for us to have such a forum. Thank you very much, Professor Gashumba, leading this particular LOC. Thank you, we are grateful. The CAPA, which is now technical universities encompassed, was initiated way back in 1977 when Commonwealth education ministers met in Accra and thought about really forming a platform that would drive the ideals of TVET in Africa. The reason why we still maintain the name with the Commonwealth, this is how it was conceived. Yes, Dr. Kashumba had already talked about what is in the pipeline, that things have changed over the years. And as a result, the membership base of CAPA had expanded. And now it is not only about Commonwealth countries that are members of CAPA. And as a result, the executive board of CAPA is revisiting the whole meaning. In fact, not the meaning, but the acronym that is being used to represent this very important association that has a membership of over 200 institutions, not only colleges and polytechnics, but also technical universities in 19 African countries. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, CAPA is a Pan-African movement. CAPA in 1977, 1978 is no longer the CAPA in the 21st century. Because now with CAPA, and you would see today and also in the coming days, especially at the main conference tomorrow, that you have representation coming from other parts of Africa. Not only English speaking, we have the French speaking, and also now we have the North, the Arab Africa that is also joining CAPA. CAPA is also a member of the Africa Union Commission's TVET cluster. And I'm proud to say that this is the second edition of this youth forum. The first was last year when CAPA conference was hosted in Abuja. This is a brainchild of the Africa Union. It was designed by the African Union. The African Union is still really the main sponsor of this program. And as a result, you would find out that almost all of the facilitators and the resource persons are coming from the AU Youth Division. As part of fulfilling the mandate of CAPA, through the executive board and partners, we decided to bring together the student leadership in TVET from our membership base. And this is the second CAPA Pan-African Forum, which is a platform to exchange ideas on how TVET skills could be innovatively deployed to create wealth and employment and solve other contemporary challenges facing the young people in the continent. This conference, which is the Kigali August 2019 Forum, would give you a voice to air your concerns and find solutions to how best the concerns or these concerns can be addressed by the policymakers and the TVET institutional managers. I am glad to note that the participants in the forum are drawn from a well-integrated mix of CAPA member institutions, ranging from TVET colleges, from technical training institutions, colleges of technology, polytechnics, and technical universities in Africa. The objective as an association is to facilitate the movement of students and trainees between member institutions and between countries, especially for courses not available in their own countries, and if so, agree to administer or help to administer a program for fellowships, as well as to enable exchanges of students and of staff. This objective informed this year's theme, which is Innovation in TVET for Skills Transfer, Youth Empowerment, and Economic Development in Africa. Honorable Minister, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this forum comes at a time when Africa is confronted with numerous problems of youth unemployment. And this is due to policy inadequacies or lack of innovations in TVET and entrepreneurship. You will agree with me that the theme is apt and all-encompassing in addressing the problem of youth in Africa. We have invited distinguished personalities and experts in these areas who will deliver captivating statements which shall form the basis for further discussions. Africa, as we all are aware, has the youngest population in the world, and as a result, we need to give serious attention to this very important population of Africa. We shall really ensure that this forum is effective and also interactive. We are the stakeholders, and we are at your disposal in interacting to know what your problems are. We may be thinking, and probably our thinking is not, in line with what your thinking is. And as a result, you will be able to tell us, to redirect us as to where you think your future is. The future is in your hands, but we are here to also escort you along those lines. So this forum, please feel free, be very bold, be very interactive, and ensure that at the end of the 2 days forum that the youth has been given to interact with stakeholders at this youth forum is really put into good use. Honorable Minister, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as TVET practitioners, we should intensify partnerships between training providers and employers. We know that for training to be effective, obviously the employers that are supposed to be fed with the output of what training happens, the type of training that happens within the training institutions is relevant. And as a result, we always encourage the participation, and you will have the opportunity in this forum to also interact with the private sector and also with employers. Honorable Minister, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as a curtain raiser, I have highlighted some issues that are key to the theme of this conference, and CAPA is working with stakeholders to find solutions as a way forward for TVET in Africa. It is therefore our sincere hope that this forum shall empower the youth to look after entrepreneurship for a different perspective. Not only entrepreneurship, but also the innovative ideas that had been going on within the training institutions, the training world that you belong. It is also exciting for CAPA to note that this is the second unique youth forum that is featuring in the calendar of the association. The first being in Nigeria, this is the second one in Rwanda, and it has now been institutionalized in the calendar of CAPA. I take this opportunity to thank all our partners and stakeholders once again for their unmatched and continued support in making this youth forum a success. No doubt that our partnership has a bright future. We can see a marked improvement between the first maiden youth forum of last year and the one that we are witnessing today. To the youth ambassadors present here, your commitment to achieving skills for youth empowerment and economic development in Africa is indisputable. But achieving skills and putting them to practice are two different things. Many of you are now entering the labor market, and this is coming with unprecedented numbers. And the biggest challenge is always about job availability. The challenge is always about employability, and sometimes we say, no, we are employable, but maybe in some sectors it is under employability. This is a time, this is a forum, that the entrepreneurial knowledge, that the innovative ideas that you have acquired over the years should be put to use in order to bolster the innovation field, while at the same time create job opportunities for the young women and men of Africa. No doubt you are in a unique position to use technology to recalibrate and force the reforms that create job opportunities in the society. Once again, I want to thank our host for the conducive environment, the warm hospitality extended to all participants, including CAPA Executive Board, including CAPA Secretariat, and the rest of the membership of CAPA. Distinctions are always invidious, but special appreciation is extended to the President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, SG. I don't know whether it is the culture, but I'll keep coming back to some of the things here. The SG said quite a number of important things that I thought young people were going to say yes, yes, and clap hands, and I felt people were just quiet and listening. Is it by mistake, or is that the culture? No, seriously, I really want to know, I want to learn. Sorry? Oversight. And it has been oversight for all the years. I think, you know, that coming from CAPA, a decision being made to have a youth forum, you know, that commitment itself is just a big gain for young people. Yeah? Can we just applaud that? And again, my previous experiences, Honorable Minister, is that in situations like this, especially with young people as well, when we are in an event like this, I mean, they are very shocked. And at the same time, our speak is they are going to be involved. It is you, whatever and so on, but we don't create a conducive environment for that. And that is why, Kyoko, don't mind when I was trying to say people should mix, should do whatever and so on, is because, I mean, if we are trying to make a transition, we need to encourage them to talk. And that is how we set the scene. Yeah? Otherwise, they are going to be talked at until the end. So thank you very much, SG, with those powerful, that powerful message. And I hope that they will reinforce that going forward. Without wasting any time, we are going to call Mr. Ashford Ngugi, the Regional Coordinator, Eastern and Southern Africa, GIZ, from Pretoria, South Africa. A lot of applause, please.
Thank you, Asante. I'm indeed greatly honored and humbled to be here. Hamjambo. Hamjambo. Bonjour, for those who speak in French, those who speak German, Guten Morgen, and Muraho. At least that one is understood. Honorable Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, Mulaho, Tena. My name is Ashford Ngugi, as the MC has pointed out. I work as a seconded advisor in the Development Agency of the African Union on skills development. And if I look at the theme of the conference and the focus of this forum, it squarely falls at the heart of what we are supporting and we are trying to do at the African Union Development Agency, NEPAD. We all know that we are working towards Agenda 2063, and Agenda 2063 is the Africa's blueprint and master plan for transforming Africa. In this agenda, there are several aspirations. There are 7 aspirations. And in this aspiration, we are looking at trying to deliver the Africa we want. And if you look at our this Pan-African Youth Forum, it also falls squarely in aspiration number 6. And the aspiration number 6 states that we are looking towards having an Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential of African people, especially its women, youth, and caring for children. In that regard, so how can we deliver on aspiration number 6 on African content? We are talking about inclusivity, leaving no one behind. And allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to, in my few talking points or in my short speech, I would like to share the experiences of German Development Corporation and the African Union Development Agency, what we have been doing, and the experiences we have gathered from several countries. I think most of them represented here, including Rwanda, where we have supported several interventions, initiatives that address this aspiration number 6 in trying to support development of youth and women. Just a bit of statistics. In 2015, the world population was, Africa population was 1.2 billion. In 2050, the projection is that we'll have 2.5 billion people on the continent. So what does that mean for us and for Africa? It means that we are going to have 440 million young men and women entering the job market by 2030. So in the next 10 years, we'll have we are required to create, manufacture, address a gap of 440 million jobs. So what does that mean? It means our narrative going forward is jobs, jobs, and jobs. One of the things which I thought I would talk last, but I think now I want to talk about it at the beginning, is who is responsible for creating jobs? Is it the Ministry of Youth? Is it the Ministry of Education? Is it the Ministry of Agriculture? We have had quite good experiences in 12 countries on agriculture sector, because we say agriculture is the backbone of the economy, and most of the people in Africa live in the rural area, 80%, correct? So is it the Ministry of Agriculture, or is it the Ministry of Planning, or is it the Treasury? It is and has to be a multi-sectoral approach. That means that all ministries are concerned, and it's in reference to one of the articles that I came across, is that at times we place this mainly on the TVET sector. Mainly we place it on the Ministry of Education, and who allocates the money for investments, either to create the employers, the entrepreneurs, or to have people who have skills who are employable. Who allocates the money? It's the Treasury. So we should also have the Ministry of Finance at the center of it. It's a multi-sectoral approach. What we have done in brief for the last couple of years is that AUD and NEPAD has partnered with the German Development Corporation to implement several programs and projects in African continent, and it's looking at skills development in Africa. And this is in response to, as I talked, one of the 7 aspirations in Agenda 2063. And some of the key outcomes that have come across, or some of the intervention areas where we have had good experiences, is looking at one of the key areas is the policy, is the regulatory framework. We always talk about policy, and policy stems from the different strategies, the different regulatory framework, the different policies themselves, the different strategic plans at the macro level. And one of the key focus has been working on evidence-based policies, trying to draw lessons from the approaches which are experimented, made in Africa, done in Africa. And in that regard, trying to look at the global south and the world. Where do we fit in? What are the best lessons learned? Which are these countries which have looked at the ecosystem in terms of TVET, in terms of creating jobs, in terms of skills development, and how can we translate, package this, and it to come out as a knowledge management product which can be shared across the continent. That is one of the areas that we have worked together. The other one is looking at the supporting skills development in some particular sectors. I already talked about agriculture. We have one of the projects which is looking at skills development, particularly for youth and women in 12 countries in Africa. And also trying to also focus on beyond gender mainstreaming. We look at gender transformative approach where we are talking about reach and benefit, and beyond benefit we're looking at empower. This is one of the another lessons learned that has produced good results with in the different countries where we have had over 10,000 value chain actors who have been trained. We have more than 700 trainers of trainers trained, and curricula developed in these countries which has been tested. And we pick this as a knowledge product, and it's a product that we would like to share around the continent. The other thematic, or I would say key focus, is private sector engagement. Not only in, we also talk about, we start with agriculture because this has been tested very well, but we are also talking about in skills development. In that, private sector is no longer a client. And I remember the Vice Chancellor, once we had a meeting here in Kigali. We pronounce it, Honorable Minister, we pronounce it as Kigali, but I understand it should be pronounced as Chigari. Here in Chigari. And one of the discussions we've had is when we say private sector inclusion in skills development, in agriculture, in health, in all the different systems, and then we have the regulatory framework system. Sometimes it's rubber stamping. Sometimes we, as I would say, from the public institutions, would come with a concoction of solutions, but then we have the private sector, the SMEs included at the end, and they are able to have become part and parcel of the process. However, what the narrative we are looking at and what has been done, and we have very good experiences, I would say, in Uganda, in Kenya, and in Ghana, is that private sector has been part and parcel of developing skills and retooling and rechanging, reforming the TVET and the education systems that they respond to the needs of the private sector, who are the employers. I would also like to say that we have had also different platforms which has been established. And the other support is now looking at, we are talking of a continent of free, removing the trade barriers, supporting the development of African codification framework. So what does this mean? This means that we would like to have, and this is one of the interventions that is, I would say, almost being finalized, is that we'd like to have people being able to move freely in Africa, just like we are talking about trade. If we are going to have trade across Africa, that means we are going to have jobs. That means people are going to move across the different countries and the different regions. If you are going to have the high-speed train across Africa, if you are going to have infrastructure being developed in Africa, where would the skills come from? The skills also need to have, not to have the barriers. We are looking at supporting and working together with the African Union Commission and African Union Development Agency in developing an African continental framework, which also responds to the needs of the member states. It's not, it's a country or member states driven framework where people would be able to get this, have the same level of qualification in Rwanda as in Benin or as in Chad or as in Morocco. So what does this mean? Based on the experiences is that there are models, there are tools and instruments and practices that can be adapted and replicated. And I'm here to say that we have knowledge management and experience sharing, and we are also striving to support more and more the South-South dialogue. So what does that mean? This is an exciting opportunity and journey for all of us, African youth. For all of us, I'm not a dinosaur. I also started some 23 years ago as youth, especially in this topic, still skills development. So currently I would say I'm an ancestor. So I'm still driving towards a dinosaur. This is an exciting journey. And as we said, we need to work in multi-sectoral with all approach, with all the stakeholders. We all need everybody on board. We are talking about the future, but I would like to tell the youth that the future is now. The future is not tomorrow. The future is not the day after tomorrow. So the future we are talking about is now. And we'd like to say the youth would like them to rise up, take up the challenge. And I look forward to the exciting opportunities to discuss and come up with concrete recommendations and make the future, which is now, a reality. And with those few remarks, once again, thanks for inviting me. I would like to say, God bless our youth, God bless Africa, asanteni sana, mulakoze.
Thank you very much, Ashford. I think from talking to doing, I think he said all the look for resources. What we need to do is to actually make sure that going forward, we don't lose Ashford and what they do, so that we can actually strengthen what we have started. Yeah. Can we just give him a lot of applause again? May we call now Mr. Erasmus Mungare, Chief Executive of Startup Africa. I think that's good news too, yeah?
Thank you.
Murao. Who didn't have breakfast this morning? Who did not have breakfast? I know I had breakfast. So we're going to try that one more time. Murao. Jambo. Komosava. Assalamu alaikum. Very delighted to be here. Very first time for me in Rwanda. I've always heard about the great things in Rwanda. When I was doing my undergrad degree in international relations, I served as a research assistant for a professor who was writing a book on Rwanda, and he ended up crediting me in his book. So to be here, for me, number one, is connecting the pieces, some of the things that I learned during that research. But also more importantly, to be here because of a very important event also makes today a very good day for me. And also to be here because I'm standing in front of youth makes me very, very happy. Why very happy? Because once upon a time, I used to be a youth. Though I still believe that I'm still a youth. I'm 40-something. So you can decide whether I'm still a youth. My organization, Startup Africa, focuses on youth, and especially the youth of this country. So to the youth who are represented here from Rwanda and other African countries. I salute you, I honor you, and by the end of this week, I know I shall have connected with so many of you to see what you're doing and how we at Startup Africa can help you. Chief Host, Honorable Dr. Eugene Mutimura, Minister of Education. Chief Guest, Honorable Rosemary Mbambazi, Minister of Youth. Dr. James Gashumba, VC Rwanda Polytechnic. Mrs. Jahau Fahal, CAPA Secretary General, and all protocols observed. Congrats for the second Pan-Africa Youth Forum with the theme of Innovation in TVET for Skills Transfer, Youth Empowerment and Economic Development in Africa. I want to especially thank Mrs. Fahal, Mr. Kyoko from CAPA, and the CAPA fraternity for inviting Startup Africa to be part and parcel of this very, very important for TVET and young people. Why are we here today? Anybody knows why we're here today, other than attending the conference? Anybody? Why are we here today? And I especially want to pose that question to the young people, because this is your forum. This is your forum. If you came because your institution told you to come, I think you're in the wrong place. I'm going to repeat that. If you came because your institution told you to come, I think you're in the wrong place. We have to be very honest. But if you came because you want to learn and get out of this place with something, then you're in the very, very right place. We've heard from previous speakers, the MC, the importance of us getting out of our comfort zones. Get to know somebody, greet somebody, get somebody's contacts, and utilize those contacts to connect, do things together. Somebody mentioned, I think it was Professor Kashumba, who says that when he was in college, he was a very shy person. I went for my undergrad studies in the US, same thing, very shy. I used to be the kind of student who used to sit at the back of the classroom, go pay attention to the professor, at the end I leave and go mind my business. But I realized that if I was going to survive in the US, I needed to start speaking up. Somebody introduced me to an organization called Toastmasters International, and essentially that transformed me to be the person that I am today. And I especially want to remember my dad just a few days before he passed away. Again, very shy kid. Whenever visitors came home, I would come, greet them, and then I could take off to the bedroom or outside to play if it was during the day. But I remember the day before he passed away, some visitors had come to say hello to him, and then he came back to the bedroom and found me there doing my homework, and he said, "Erastus, you need to be around people." Those were his last words. Today, I'm around people. I'm around people especially to carry on his legacy, because for him, serving humanity was part and parcel of his work. And for we young people today, as we learn, as we do, as we create enterprises, as we create great businesses, as we lead, what legacies are we going to leave behind? We live in a society where individual success is the only thing that most of us think about. But we never think about beyond today, beyond tomorrow, how am I going to be remembered? What difference shall I have made to the people, to the communities that made me be the person that I am today? So today, tomorrow, and the rest of this week, and coming months and coming years, I challenge you to think about, what are you studying? What business are you starting? If you are going to be employed by somebody, how are you going to take the position you've been placed in to make sure that you're not only making a difference, but you're creating and leaving a legacy? It is therefore very critical for us to also try to understand all the organizations that are represented here and others that are not here. What do they do, and how do they serve young people in this country and the rest of the continent? Because we know that the youth of Africa, very important. And if we do not invest in you, the young people of the continent of Africa, then we, the older people, have ourselves to blame and perish. In Startup Africa, we believe exactly in that, because we know that if we do not give you an opportunity to start up on something, and that's essentially where we derived our name from, if we do not give you something, a platform to start up on something, then your future looks bleak. But we don't want that to happen. We've seen great things happen since our organization started in 2011, where essentially it was just a focus on high school students and introducing entrepreneurship to them. 7 years later, over 15,000 young people from Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania have participated in a program which students form teams of 4. They come up with business ideas, they write concept papers, and then the very best are invited to compete. Those 15,000 students, all of them, number one, graduated high school. Number two, some of them have gone to university, but also more importantly, some of them have ended up starting some of those ideas that they brought to the competition. For the TVETs, we want to give you the same challenge, we at Startup Africa, because we believe that you are a step higher than the high school students that we've been working with. Why are you a step higher? During the introduction that the MC asked us to make, I met 3 youth just behind me, and all of them are engineers, right? Some of the greatest entrepreneurs are actually engineers. So for me, as I was thinking about them after I sat down, I asked myself, when they graduate, are they going to be knocking somebody's door in an office looking for a job, or are they going to create enterprises based on some of the innovations that they are creating from the university? So for the youth who are represented here, if you're currently in university, I want to challenge you. And Startup Africa challenges you. Do not just pursue the degree, the paper. Do not just pursue the degree, the paper. I would rather come to the opening of your business, of your enterprise, than come to your graduation where you'll be receiving the degree. That is my challenge to you, because I don't want you to come to my office and ask for an internship or ask for a job when you could have actually been the person who would have created that job. Because when you're in educational institutions, I always tell young people, when you're a student, everything is possible. Everything is possible. Your professors are at your disposal. Some of the resources are easily available just because you wear that title of the student. So young people, take advantage of everything that is being offered to you and make sure that it happens. And as I said at the beginning, Startup Africa is here to stand with you. We have helped other young people who have come to us with just simple ideas. We've taken them through the ideation stage. We've introduced some of them to innovation centers and incubation centers where they've been supported through mentors and coaches. We've supported some of them to get funding for some of the initiative that they wanted. Why not you? Why not you? I'll finish with these. Some of the greatest things that we can do as young people and everybody is to have somebody that we call a mentor or mentors. Personally, I've learned and achieved a lot through mentors who have taken my hand and led me in my journey to be the kind of leader that I am today and the work that I do in Startup Africa. Many years ago, when this organization was starting, I met a gentleman in the US, Dr. Tony Williams, who taught me some words. And every time I've thought about those words, they've always inspired my journey to go the next stage, to stay up late, to call people that sometimes people say you cannot reach. You know, go into offices that sometimes people can say, if you're not so-and-so, you cannot go to. Because I believe that when resiliency is part and parcel of you, anything is possible. I'm going to leave you with those words. I hope they inspire you just like they inspire me. Or I hope for those of us who are Christians and read the Bible, when you look in the book of Nehemiah and his leadership journey of going from the king's palace to go back to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, ask yourself too, what walls are you going to rebuild in your village? What walls are you going to rebuild in your village? Beyond Kigali, beyond Nairobi, beyond Accra, what walls are you going to rebuild? Because all of us cannot live in cities when all the resources that we need are in villages, right? Right? So all of us should not just think about congregating in the cities, in the capital cities, because that's where things are happening. But how do we turn back with our degrees, with our innovations and everything and say, let's go back to the villages and help them improve? We should not wait for outsiders to come and do for us what we, young people of Africa and Africans as a whole, should be able to do for ourselves. We are the brightest, the most knowledgeable, and because of that, we should do it. So at this time, I'm going to ask you to please stand with me. Please stand. Before they call out, for those students who are competing tomorrow, please, at the end of this session, please meet us outside because we need to finalize some things for tomorrow. For those students who are competing tomorrow. So I'm going to say some words. Please repeat after me. And again, as I said, I hope they inspire you just as much as they inspire me every day. All right. I am the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will create, not destroy. I'm a leader. I'm a force for good. I'm a force for peace. Defy the odds. Set a new standard. Step up. Step up. Step up. That was, for those of you who have sung in the choir, that was like the tune, right? The choir master says, right? So that was that. Now, I want you to say these. Remember, it is I. If you don't say it with the enthusiasm, if you don't add energy, then it means nothing. So, I am the voice. I am the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will create, not destroy. I'm a leader. I'm a force for good. I'm a force for peace. Defy the odds. Set a new standard. Step up. Step up. Step up. So one more time. But if you don't say it to the level that I want it, we are going to do it 20 times. So the choice is yours, all right? The choice is yours. I am the voice. I am the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will create, not destroy. I'm a leader. I'm a force for good. I'm a force for peace. Defy the odds. Set a new standard. Step up. Step up. Step up. Step up. Step up. Step up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and time is not on our side. Can I quickly call Mr. Koko from the Youth Division, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Hello. Good morning. Fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not a dinosaur. So my name is Kokusename Jagaju. I'm from the Youth Division of the African Union Commission. And it's a pleasure for me to be here. And I'm going to stand on existing protocols. And ladies and gentlemen, dear youth delegates, welcome you all again to this conference. I'll first start by sending you the warm greetings of the head of the African Union Youth Division, Ms. Prudence Ngwenya, who would have loved to be here, but who unfortunately could not make it. And the reason is that she has to lead one of our side events at the TCAD happening in Japan. And it's a great pleasure for me to be here for the second Pan-African Youth Forum. Because I said earlier, there was an initial one or a first one that's happened where? Who knows where it happened? In Nigeria, in Abuja last year. And that was the first time there was a Pan-African Youth Forum that precedes the CAPA conference. And I think I would like to appreciate CAPA for keeping this a tradition and organizing a second Pan-African Youth Forum. And if you are happy for that, please put your hands together for CAPA. I would like to start with one wise word of Nelson Mandela, who said that no country can really develop unless its citizens are educated. And in Africa, 75% of our population is made of young people below the age of 35. And the African Union defines a young person as someone aged between 15 and 35. So if you are above 35, the bad news is you are not a young person anymore. But the good news is you are a friend of the youth and you are young at heart. So we really appreciate that. So let's put our hands together for everyone beyond 35, but who has still made time to be with us, to support the initiative, and then to support the young people. We can't do it alone. It's to get in together that we build synergy. So we are glad to have you here and also learn from your wise words. And considering that majority of the African population is made of young people, and if Nelson Mandela says that no country can really develop unless its citizens are educated, it means young people's educations are critical for the development of the African continent. And the Agenda 2063, which is a 50 years vision plan of the African Union, says that by 2063, we would like to have an Africa that is peaceful, an Africa that is prosperous, an Africa that is led by its own citizens, essentially young people, and an Africa that represents a global or a strong force in a global arena. And for Africa to do that, as young people, needs to be the one to drive that change. And some dinosaurs, excuse the name, usually say that young people are the future of the continent. And then we say, no, we are not just the future, but we are the present. What does that mean? That means that our leadership starts today. And that leadership starting today means that we should not sleep. When our leaders are governing, we should be by their sides. Not just to criticize them. Criticize is good, because you also need to keep them accountable. But we need to be part of the change, and we need to be part of the change we want to see on the continent. And that's why the motto of the AU Agenda 2063 is the Africa we want. Not just the Africa that people who are in governing position are leading, but the Africa that as young people, we are also driving. And unless we drive that change, we will be there complaining, but no change will happen. Because change is not just on top, but change needs to happen across all levels of the spectrum. And as young people, we are a strong force that can make that change. And I have a friend who usually says that if people on top are not taking care of us, we will take care of them. I hope we won't just take care of them, but we'll take care of the issues at hand, because that's the most important thing, right? And I'm glad here we are in Kigali or Rwanda, which has set a very good example in terms of TVET. And you can simply do a little bit of Google to see the wonderful things that young people in TVET have done when they are still a student. So it means you don't need to complete your education to be the change that you want to see. But at your little level, you can already make great impacts. I hear of this innovation of a young person in a TVET institution that helped hatch eggs. And by creating that device, the farmer can save 80% of the cost that they usually engage. And that's what we want to see as young people doing. Becoming the change that we want to see, creating a positive impact in our society. And I hope us here today, we will be the one to lead that change and be the people who are serving as a good example of what a young person should be. And I want to leave you with another Nelson Mandela statement that says that young people must take it upon them to ensure that they receive the highest education possible so that they can represent us well in future as future leaders. The key element that I would like to emphasize on is that young people must take it upon themselves. That calls upon our responsibility as youth. We usually say we have rights, and that's true, we have a lot of rights, including the right of education. But to fulfill that right, we also have responsibilities to make sure we are educated. And I think in the 21st century, we are lucky to have the new technologies. All of us are on Facebook, right? Are we on Facebook? That's good. Seems like you are a bit shy. Are you on Facebook? Okay, cool, that's coming. And I hear people saying that young people don't like reading. And I'm like, no. If as a young person I spend 1 hour reading Facebook status, I can read a book. So I think the issue is about the choice that we make. How do we make the choice to read things that educate us, not just things that entertain us? Entertainment is good, but education is better. So as you are entertaining yourself, make sure you set time aside to educate yourself, not just educate yourself for the sake of knowledge, but educate yourself to be a transformative agent in your society and in your continent. And that's where we will be the young person that Nelson Mandela talked about, the young person that will make change in our community. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koko. I didn't hear that, or didn't see or notice that energy again. Arrestas, you didn't do your good job. I think you took us there, and then suddenly again they say, are you all on Facebook? There's no energy, and we have young people in here. May I ask the same Facebook? Are we on Instagram? Are we on LinkedIn? Because if you're not on all those, the future is not yours. Yeah? May I take this opportunity now to invite you, Dr. James, to come and introduce, as a host, to come and introduce the minister, because I might end up getting it wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my great pleasure to invite the minister, who is also my friend and my mentor. She mentors me, and I'm a dinosaur. But Minister Rosemary Mbabazi is the Minister of Youth. So some of you may be saying, oh, she's stepping in for Minister of Education, because the Minister of Education had to attend to very urgent duties sent by government to Japan. Actually, there are many ministers, several ministers from other countries who are supposed to be here, who also told us that, sorry, we are going to Japan. I'm annoyed with this Japan. Yeah. Minister Mbabazi is very, very conversant with what we do in Ministry of Education. So it's not like we've put a burden on her, because she is very much in touch with what we do. Only recently, I think, have we finished that TVET Youth Challenge? Has it? It's in December. The Minister of Youth was the initiator. They put a challenge to our youth in TVET, of a TVET Youth Challenge. You should see our young people competing college with college, because they want to win the prize that Minister of Youth has put up, and several prizes. So on television, every so often, we watch some institutions doing competition. So thank you so much. So Minister Rosemary looks young, but actually, she really knows how to look after herself. Because someone was saying, oh, you have such a young minister. Yes, she looks very young, and very experienced. When she starts talking, you say, oh, that young minister. But we like our youth. We empower our young people to. So before I make mistakes, I want to invite you, Honorable Minister, to address our young people.
Thank you so much. Probably he meant I'm a dinosaur. Maybe a dinosaur in the making. Yeah, thank you so much. I really want to hear the energy as well. I was feeling so cold. Maybe the SC or what is it? Inore. At least let's show people that you are in the house. Okay, Rwanda again. Inore. Thank you very much. It means something I think you can learn from the neighbor. They can teach you. So I'm so honored to be here, Madam Secretary General of CAPA, the Vice Chancellor, Rwanda Polytechnic, the participating representatives from the different countries, representatives of public and private institutions, development partners, ladies and gentlemen, but our distinguished youth, good morning. Good morning. I don't know what happened, Dr. Gashumba. Maybe we didn't give them some breakfast. Did we have some breakfast in the house? Because the energy is so low, maybe we need some glucose, some sugars. But I believe it's because you're intellectuals. Intellectuals like to really sink in a lot and do a lot of thinking. Should we take that? Yes. Great. So we are scientists, we think a lot, we conceptualize, and I believe after here we'll be doing something, especially in innovation that we are going to talk about. I'm so honored, as I mentioned, to be representing colleague minister, Eugene Mtimura, who is not in the country. Like they mentioned, there's a big forum which is also convening most of the ministers in charge of education with our heads of state. So it means there's a lot of planning for education, and that means for you. It means it's for you. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the organizers of this event. I thank you all for participating. I enjoyed listening all the speeches that were made before. I had a mix of dinosaurs, those in the making, and also the young one, Coco, who was also representing. I saw the energy from the commissioner, by the way, Professor Sarah. I saw the energy in you, so I saw a lot of mentorship happening. I also enjoyed listening to our colleague from different organizations that are present here, and I really want to encourage our young people to keep listening, but also getting something out of it, because I believe you can make your future by one step that you might take and pick out something from the discussion we had here. It's my great pleasure to be with you, as I mentioned today, and I would like to extend to you all a very warm welcome on behalf of the government of Rwanda to this second CAPA Youth Forum under the theme, Innovation in TVET for Skills Transfer, Youth Empowerment and Economic Development in Africa. You can keep and underline keywords that will keep coming the whole of this today and even tomorrow. I would like to express our thanks and gratitude to you all for your participation. A study by the World Bank indicates that middle-income countries in the East Asia that have become industrial giants, such as China and Korea, has over 50% of their tertiary students enrolled in TVET programs vis-a-vis in universities. The technical and vocational education training, the TVET, must play important roles in implementing and promoting sustainable development. TVET institutions are major suppliers of workforce who will be in the forefront in dealing directly with the sustainable issues. As all speakers mentioned, education is the basic human right and a key tool for national development. It's also linked to human resource development, thereby impacting on economic growth and the wider development of individuals and societies. This implies that education should not only include the acquisition of knowledge, but also skills aimed at achieving an all-around individual for the roles and challenges in the society. We need to empower our youth, as we've been saying and we've been doing, and young generations to become competitive innovators. In economic terms, innovation describes the development and applications of ideas and technologies that improve goods and services or make their production more efficient. Innovation is an essential driver of economic progress. that benefits consumers, benefits also businesses and the economy as a whole. One of the major benefits of innovation is its contribution to economic growth. This cannot be understated. Innovation can lead to higher productivity, leading to sustainable economic development. African institutions, training institutions must put much emphasis on creating conducive learning environment to allow young learners to become more innovative and competitive to the global labor market. A total number of 200 million Africans, I repeat the numbers, a total number of 200 million Africans are between 15 and 24 years old. This number is expected to double by 2045, with 10 million young graduates entering the labor market or the workforce each year. Africa's labor force will surpass both India's and China's population by 2040. Africa's leaders are called, all of us are leaders. In the House, consider that your call, not the presidents, not ministers, but all of us. African leaders are called to take action to prepare this enormous asset to contribute to and ultimately lead the continent world socio-economic transformation. These numbers should speak volumes, but also in terms of impact. In order to transform this growing number of youth into productive workforce, there is a need to create more sustainable jobs with decent incomes in strategic sectors, while improving education and skills development. Quality education is an indispensable tool for youth empowerment. We need that, an education system that places undue emphasis on traditional learning cannot produce the innovators, critical thinkers, and problem solvers. The Africans that they need economic transformation. In today's reality, where there are no guarantees of a job for life, young people must have the skills to maneuver through different jobs. You will excuse me today, I'm a learner. I'm not good at reading speeches. But I want to finish up what they wrote for me, and then we talk one-on-one. I think I'm not so much used, but I'm learning today. I learned even from the MC from the morning. I was very observant. So when you're in the environment of a class, you have to be obedient. So today, Dr. Scholl told me, you have to read everything. So I'm doing that. Transferable skills such as critical thinking and teamwork are as important as specialization and matching the curriculum to the labor market. African formal and informal education systems must place a premium on quality education. Greater investment is needed in higher education, vocational training, and skills development. Education also must promote specialization. Graduates should be sufficiently skilled in these sectors that offer the greater comparative advantage and should be trained to adapt to the future growth sectors. We always say we cannot train or prepare the future, but we prepare the youth for them to fit in the future. Because even we're not yet there in the future, we don't know what might be there. So we prepare the youth to be adaptable to the future. According to the Mo Ibrahim Foundation report, Africa has the lowest share of engineering graduates. That clicks a lot. Mo Ibrahim Foundation report says Africa has the lowest share of engineering graduates in the world. Yet such specialized skills are needed to drive and sustain economic transformation. We need to have a match. We need to match this. We need these skills because we need transformation. We need industrialization. We need the continental free trade area to thrive. We need fourth industrial revolution. We're talking about the fourth industrial revolution is in Rwanda. We still have low base of the engineers that we need more and more. Those are the innovations and that we want to see in the future. Undeniably, creating sustainable income-generating jobs will take time in many instances, but the work must begin now. The development of Africa's youth can only be successful and sustainable if all facets of society are involved. Government, the private sector, the civil society, and most fundamentally, the family, the parents, must all play their part in preparing Africa's youth for transforming the continent. I want just to leave some few. I kept on talking about government, the private sector, the young people. And I believe we all kept silent, listening. How do we create synergy from the first speaker to the last? What do I pick out as an opportunity? Because I believe every opportunity is for someone to grab. Because opportunities fly in the window, and if they're not grabbed, they fly out through the window. I want to leave out a few things for the young people. We always discuss this, and just 3 or 4 C's to remember. We're talking about the government creating an enabling environment. We're talking about policies that are needed. We're talking about programs that are needed. We're talking about partnerships that we see in the house. But we need to see what is the commitment of young people. The 3 or 4 C's I want to focus on first is character. The young people, what do you need to be, to position yourself in the future? The character. The character that has the attitude that I can do, like our colleague mentioned from Startup Africa. The character that says, I can do it, even if it's a challenge, it's for me, for this generation. Dr. Gashumba mentioned the TVET Youth Challenge that we started. We were discussing, say, how do we bring in entrepreneurial spirit in the engineering? If I'm an engineer, you don't have to stop being an engineer. How do you market your product? How do you create a product that is needed on the market? How do you create linkages between what you're producing and what is needed? How do you create the linkages between the academia and the industry? And that's how the TVET Youth Challenge came up. I assure you, we started working with your team, and we just knocked at the universities, the TVET universities, and guess what? The young people were ready with innovation. It didn't take us like months and weeks. It was just in weeks we announced this, and they had readily available innovation. That means they have a lot of thinking. But we need to provide the environment, the ecosystem that supports them. So we need character. The knowledge you have is great, but what kind of character do you have? Is it a character that sits and complains? Like he said, yes, fine, you can criticize, you can complain, but what is your role? We are not spectators. The youth should not be spectators, but be active participants in the development of Africa that we're talking about. So what kind of character do we have? Trustworthy, someone who can be trusted. It is the biggest asset that you have. You might not even have money, but people have credibility in you. That when you say yes, yes, it means yes. When you say no, it means no. What kind of credibility do you have in your own community? You start with your class. You start with your community, teaching lecturers, or the people that you are with always around you. What perception do they have with you? Can they partner with you in developing that application that is needed? So we start with the character, and the character. Then also competence. The first C is character. The second is competence. You are acquiring all these competences. But you don't have to rely only what was brought by you, by the lecturer in front of you. You do research. You say you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you're on Twitter, you know what, name it. The social media is there to make it easier. How much time do you spend on those social medias? How do we make them more productive? How can you promote your products that you're making? Yesterday I was watching Mark Zuckerberg. How many followed on TV when they're talking about his history? When he was at Harvard University, when he developed an application, and it was within the school, and the school was, the application he developed, the first one he was doing for just connecting, for fun, connecting the school, and he put their pictures. The school stopped him. Can you stop that? Why? You didn't have the right to use my confidentiality, you know? You took my pictures. Some people are complaining, so they told him, close that. He closed the first application. But he didn't give up. He opened another one. Now that one which grew up, it has a lot of background why they chose that and why he called it Facebook and all that. Now he's among the billionaires. Just one application. And he has all this network. Now he has created this platform. How do we use it also to make millions? Other than just consumers and beneficiaries, how do we make them? You can promote your products, not only to like it, that you had a good picture and you posted it there. How about the products that you have posted and people like it and people buy it and we commercialize it? Instead of people seeing that you have really used that, you know, you are consuming, you're using it, you're using your bandwidth, you're finishing it exhaustively, We have a lot of hotspots here where we have internet connectivity and free bandwidth, and you find there young people every day. But I always wonder, if you find them around those hotspots, how much are you using it to commercialize it, gain money out of it, so you become also a billionaire? If someone is using you to become a billionaire, how do you use him also to become a billionaire? By using his network. So that is the competence that I'm talking about. The third is the commitment. As young people, you need the character. The second one, you need the competence, that the skill that you have. The third, you have the commitment. You can be an engineer, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, until you commit. I think this meeting is about recommitment. Even with the ministers that we're going to meet at some point, everything's about re-energizing, recommitment, coming back to the core call. Then the other one is connection. I think that's what the MC was telling us. Connect as much as possible. This era is about connection. You connect to another person connects you, and connects you to the market. I'm not talking about who do you know in the office to connect you. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about entrepreneurship. Connecting. As you're here seated, at least make a point that you met 10 people, and at least make a follow-up of 3, and make concrete results out of the 3, out of the people, the 10 people. The 3 you met might make a big difference and change the whole lifestyle. So the university, CAPA, and all stakeholders have brought you together to connect. So if you could consider the character, the competence, the commitment, and the connection, I think you can make it happen. I want to conclude, because I might have spoken more than everyone and tried to read everything. I would like to thank you very much, the organizers, and thank the young people who participated. I want to hear great ideas that you have, things that we can work around and change. And I also want to invite you to come back in October with African Union Commission, with UNDP, with FDB, the government of Rwanda. We have a program called Youth Connect. I think you must have heard about that. We are convening 10,000 young people in October. Please come back. And we want those young people with innovations from Startup Africa who need funding also to participate in the competition that is going on, to submit the great ideas they have. We always get funding, and we support those young people to a tune of $5,000 that can boost your business. There's a lot of maybe connection that we need for financing, to finance these great ideas. We are running this competition that is already ongoing on our website, but we're also convening young people great ideas. So we call upon you to come, and we partner and we drive the agenda of empowering our young people, give them that platform they can do what you can think about. As I also conclude, I want to encourage young people, in addition to the character I mentioned, is the attitude. There's a saying that is going around that organizations are recruiting for attitude, and they train for skills. Did you hear that? That they recruit attitude, and they train for skills. This is what they need. It's what is the cornerstone, is the attitude. I will end up with a small story that I read recently, and really it inspired me. I even shared with my children. Before I share with the youth outside, I also want to inspire those little ones that are under my custodian. They always complain, you have a lot of time for the youth, how about us? So I started to change the whole idea, and I said, I start with you, and then I got to speak to the youth. And so this young man had a father who was, they would call it a nagging father. The youth could say he's a nagging father. The father would say, never leave your room with the lights on. You remember that? Switch off the light behind you. It's like a voice the father would hear. When in the kitchen or in the bathroom, you hear water pouring. And they say, don't leave the running water. Go back and switch it off. Then he goes back. That is, before you leave, put that book back in order. You know that, you remember that in the parents? The voice behind is telling you, don't do this, don't do this. You remember that? Even as adults. And you remember, and then the boy said, by the time I go to school, I finish school, by the time I become 18, I'm going to look for a job. The first thing to do is to leave this house, which is very nagging. The nagging father. Or the nagging mother. And then he went for an interview. Before he went, he told his father, I'm going for an interview for a job, but guess what? When I get this job, you don't see me again. And the father said, I wish you luck, gave him transport and some extra money. And then the boy went. When he went to the place where he was going to do an interview, when he entered the entrance, he found no security. And he found the door, like, you know, disorganized way. The door was not fully open and not halfway open, and he didn't understand. What's going on in this organization? He became concerned. He said, okay, he heard the voice of his father. Can you open widely and become a responsible boy? He did it. But he was like, what's going on in this organization? He went to the reception. I can see people nodding who have heard about this story. And then he went into the reception area. He found water pouring, and there was no gardener. He saw the lights all over the place excessively. And he said, what's going on in this organization? And then he looked around, nobody was there. Then he heard his father's voice, switch off the lights that is not needed. He said, okay, I don't mind whatever is happening. He went and switched off. He saw a signpost saying, interviews on the first floor. He climbed on the first floor. When he reached on the first floor, he found people seated waiting for their turn. And while they're seated behind them, there were a lot of ACs and, you know, those the fans, not the AC, the fans. You know those who are placed in the corners. You remember those before this technology came? So there were a lot of fans in the corners were on running and they were not needed. So he looked at everybody. Nobody's concerned. He went and said, okay, he heard the voice, the father, switch off unnecessary fans. He went and switched off everything and he sat back to wait for his turn. Before he entered the room, when it was his turn, he found the carpet, the rug before he enters. It was upside down. And he said, what's going on in this organization? No one is organized. He tried to put it in order and he entered in the room. Everybody was waiting for him. When do you start, sir? Imagine if you enter in the room and was confused. When do I start? Before even you ask any question, do you know me? Do you know what I studied? The papers they were talking about. You want to carry the paper. People want to see beyond the paper. Even partners want to see beyond the paper. And so he said, what do you mean? He said, no. Part of the exam was what you did. Actually, you passed everything. We put the CCTV cameras to watch everybody coming in here. And we wanted to see how people behave. We don't want your papers. Everybody has what you have. But you wanted something in you, the attitude. So you are the one we need here. That attitude is what I want to leave you with. To feel I'm the one to change all this that is not in order. And what he did, you remember the person he called? What do you think he called first? The nagging father. So teachers, you might be nagging fathers. So mentors, you might be the nagging father. He called the father and said, by the way, I decided not to come to your home. Now I want to stay and learn more. Now I want to start to be next to you just to learn more. So we want more of the dinosaurs. We want them around us to inspire us, to tell us the way. They've been there before, to learn from them and be the best that we want to be. So I want to leave you with that, and I really want to take this opportunity to thank you all. As I said, I want to invite you back, and I take this opportunity to officiate this forum, and I wish deliberate discussions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Can I just test whether we were listening? What are the 4 C's? We've got young people here, they were listening. The 4 C's. Number 1? Character. Number 2? Commitment. Number 3? Huh? Competence. Number 4? Connections. Yeah? But we need to avoid memorizing because, you know, in our days, I remember our lecturer would come into class and we all stand up and he says, deposit your ulteriors into your posterities. Yeah? And would waste the next 4 months trying to look for those words in the dictionary. Yeah? And he would go on again and say, birds of identical plumage perambulate in the same vicissitudes. Yeah? instead of saying birds of the same feather flock together. The reason why I'm saying this is because I'm saying you should not just memorize and recite the 4 C's. Okay? And that was deep, Honorable Minister, when you said they recruit for attitude. And I would like to share this. Can you give me the chair very quickly? The chair, if you bring it over here. Now, one thing that I would like to demonstrate to you very quickly, and that is why as we change and we move on, yeah? It is how we teach. Because if you remember learning through activity, you remember those days? The baby is sitting, and all of us are following the teacher. The baby is sitting. The baby is crying. The baby is crying. The dog is barking. The dog is barking. And the teacher was teaching like that. And he stood on the chair in the classroom, and he said, the teacher is hanging. The teacher is hanging. So there was a rope there, and he was trying to demonstrate. And he took the rope around his neck, and he said, the teacher is hanging. And the kids were saying, the teacher is hanging. He says, the teacher is hanging. The teacher is hanging. By mistake, the chair fell. And the teacher was dying. And he was saying, the teacher is hanging. And the class was saying, the teacher is hanging. The teacher is... No one went out to report. So our journey going forward, it is about doing. And when we talk about energy, Erastus, I really liked how you tried very hard to get the energy out, okay? And we're depending on you. The higher you go, the higher we went. But we have young people here, and I would like to refuse that I'm not a dinosaur. And you can hear how I speak, you can hear the energy, whatever, and so I'm not. But I felt there were dinosaurs when I said change seats. It is young people or young dinosaurs. They are not moving. If they are moving slowly to the next partner. But how are you going to get a job? Because when they do the job interview skills, you need to stand out. Because you've done the same qualifications, you have the same qualifications and all that kind of stuff. When you go in there, by the time they ask you questions, tell us about yourself. You know, you need to stand out. But here I saw some dead souls. Young people, the energy is not there. We're trying to get it out, and we are saying this is the beginning of change. Going forward, we are not going to see this again. We would like, when you come back from lunch, from the tea, let us be young people who are vibrant and dynamic. We are not going to be given all the time. The SG said, we are committing to be having this youth forum from now onwards. The next youth forum, we must see leaders in you. At the moment, there are no indications. And at this stage, I would like to, is Freddie around here? Freddie and Trevor. Trevor, where's Freddie? So Trevor is there. Trevor, can you stand up? I wish Freddie was here. Because Freddie, I introduced Freddie to CAPA, to come and visit CAPA. And I must tell you, South Africans were reluctant because all the time when you invite them to Africa, they go to Russia, they go to the UK, they go to the States. And when we set conferences by CAPA, each time they're out of here. So what I'm trying to do, we are on a journey to get them on. In your time, SG, this is going to happen, to actually make sure that the next time we'll be having a delegations of South Africans because they need to play a part in actually contributing to Africa. The contradictions are that in South Africa, we have the infrastructure that is better than anywhere. But we don't have the workforce. We don't have academics and young people that are educated to fit in there. What you have people, young people that are educated with no infrastructure. So we need each other in this journey. So that must change. So the reason why I was mentioning our colleagues from South Africa is because through CAPA, what we have done, okay, we went for 3 young people, one from Kenya, one from Ghana, and one from Malawi. We invited and funded them to attend a conference in South Africa, And I tell you, you remember that, Trevor? They stood out. They shone. Because personally, I wanted to demonstrate that other African colleagues are not just selling fruits and vegetables at corner streets. We have academics and are very dynamic young people. So we're really proud of what they did. They were loved by everyone. And it was a life-changing experience for our young people in South Africa. So we only don't talk. Through this journey, we're going to keep taking young people in Africa, and one day, I hope that CAPA will have a big forum where we shall have transformed young people, where the young people will be actually talking all those 4 C's. So this event, it is about really transforming the lives of young people. And the young people in Africa, in this continent, should also know that the professors and doctors, when we got our freedom in South Africa in 1994, we were not ready. We were not educated because of the system. But had it not been for all the professors from the rest of Africa, our universities would be dead by now. So we need to change Africa. We need to unite Africa. We need this energy to get all that opportunity to do that. Yeah? So I think that is very, very important. Yeah? So I think that should be close to our hearts, Dr. Kajumba, because this forum is not about talking. It's not about academics. The technical vocational education and training is about doing. Yeah? It is not about theory. It is about doing. So you, the young people, for me, the key message is going forward. When we come back from tea, we need your energy. We need your active participation. We know that you'll still be learning and listening from our leaders. But the most important thing is that, that the attitude has to start changing. Yeah? Because if at all we're going to learn from you, it starts now. Yeah? Well, thank you very much for that. I know that after this, we're supposed to have a photo session. So who is in charge of that? Thank you.